NASCAR's ultimate underdog, J.D. McDuffie. John Delphus McDuffie, or J.D. McDuffie, was a former NASCAR Cup Series, Busch Series, now Xfinity Series, and ARCA Series driver who competed from 1963 through 1991. Always running on a limited budget, McDuffie would typically field his own race cars throughout his racing career. Born December 5, 1938, in Upper Little River Township, North Carolina, he began his racing career dirt racing, winning several small races throughout the Carolinas, even winning a track championship at the small dirt track near Rockingham, North Carolina. In 1963, J.D. McDuffie made his NASCAR Grand National, now NASCAR Cup Series debut at the Racing Association of Myrtle Beach Incorporated Speedway, near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, behind the wheel of a self-owned X Ford, starting 14th and finishing 12th, making 12 starts throughout that first season, making all but 2 starts in a number 76 Ford. His best start was 6th at Columbia in the late summer, and his best finish was 8th twice at Asheville in the summer and Hickory in the fall. Overall, in 12 Cup Series starts, he scored 3 top 10s, finishing 46th in final point standings. McDuffie did not make any NASCAR Cup Series starts in 1964 or 65, returning to the Cup Series, running the vast majority of the 1966 season, behind the wheel of a self-owned number 70 Ford. McDuffie would use the number 70 his entire career. He chose the number 70 because it was easy to both paint and remember. In 1966, McDuffie made 38 attempts, qualifying for 36 races. Something that we have to remember is that prior to R.J. Reynolds coming into the sport as the title sponsor of the Cup Series, they used to run up to 3 races a week, meaning some seasons consisted of over 50 races. This was an alright season for McDuffie, though 15 DNFs really hurt him in the championship point standings. His best start was 6th at Monroe in the spring, and his best finish was 5th at Spartanburg in the early summer. Overall, in 36 Cup Series starts, he scored 1 top 5 and 9 top 10s, finishing 27th in final Cup Series point standings. That next season, in 1967, McDuffie only made 1 start in the NASCAR Cup Series, in his number 70 Ford, starting 16th and finishing 18th, following a lap 137 engine failure at Spartanburg in the spring. In 1968, McDuffie went back to running the majority of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Again, at times, J.D. would show that he indeed did possess enough talent to belong in the NASCAR Cup Series, returning to his number 70 Buick. His best start was 7th at Asheville in the spring, and his best finish was 6th at Greenville and Pickens in the summer. Overall, in 1968, McDuffie scored 9 top 10s, finishing 24th in final Cup Series point standings. For the 1969 NASCAR Cup Series season, McDuffie ran almost the full schedule, making 45 starts behind the wheel of his number 70 Buick. His best finish was 6th twice, at Richmond in the spring and Greenville Pickens in the summer. Overall, in 45 starts, he scored 12 top 10s, finishing 14th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. J.D. also made a few one-off starts for some other car owners, making 5 in all. The first was at Daytona in the summer, behind the wheel of E.C. Reed's number 09 Chevrolet, starting 34th and finishing 40th, following a lap 6 oil leak. He made 2 starts in Don Tarr's number 0 Chevrolet. His best start was 25th at Martinsville in the fall, and his best finish was 20th at Rockingham in the fall. At North Wilkesboro in the fall, J.D. made a one-off start in G.C. Spencer's number 8 Plymouth, starting 17th and finishing 12th. The final one-off start he made in 1969 was in a number 84 Ford for Emma Langley at Charlotte in the fall, starting 32nd and finishing 24th, following a burn-up clutch on lap 277. McDuffie continued to field his own race cars in 1970, attempting 39 NASCAR Cup Series events, qualifying for 36. 35 of which were made behind the wheel of his own number 70 Buicks and Mercuries. Like had become a somewhat usual occurrence, McDuffie had some solid runs on some of the short tracks. His best start was 6th, twice, at Albany Saratoga Speedway in the summer, and Bowman Gray in the late summer. His best finish was 5th at Bowman Gray in the summer. Overall, in 36 starts, McDuffie scored 1 top 5 and 10 top 10s, finishing 16th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Also making a one-off start for Ken Spikes in Atlanta in the late summer, starting 33rd and finishing 39th after a vibration ended his race early on lap 30. The 1971 NASCAR Cup Series season was yet another year of many struggles for McDuffie, netting 20 DNFs and 43 starts throughout the season. Though, in the events he did make it to the finish in, McDuffie had some pretty strong runs, including a career best finish. His best start was 6th twice, in Houston in the summer and Albany Saratoga Speedway in the summer. His best finish was 3rd at Albany Saratoga Speedway in the summer. Overall, 43 starts, he scored 2 top 5s and 8 top 10s, finishing a career best 9th in the final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. R.J. Reynolds began sponsoring the NASCAR Cup Series in 1972, giving birth to the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Another big factor among all the changes were those made to the schedule. The sanctioning body nearly cut the schedule in half, hacking off all the tracks that were shorter than 1/2 mile in length. McDuffie attempted the full schedule, 31 races, qualifying for 27 events. His best start was 13th twice, at Richmond in the spring and Texas World Speedway in the fall. His best finish was 5th at Bristol in the summer. Overall, in 27 NASCAR Cup Series starts, McDuffie scored 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s, finishing 18th in final point standings, as well as making a couple one-off starts for a couple different teams. The first was in a number 0 Dodge for George Altheda at Darlington in the fall, starting 36th and finishing 15th. The other was at Richmond in the fall, behind the wheel of Doc Pastana's number 5 Plymouth, starting 18th and finishing 30th in a start and park effort. McDuffie also made 2 Grand National East Series starts. His best start was 19th at Lonesome Pine in the late summer, and his best finish was 7th at Winston-Salem in the late summer. Switching the schedule down to only around 30 races a season, down from as much as 62 races a season. This really helped small teams like JD's, considering with less races, there was less traveling, meaning less money spent on travel expenses. Though, at the same time, every other race team took advantage of this as well. So, even though this change did help the smaller teams, on some levels, it helped all teams across the board. After a bit of an off-season in 72, in 1973, JD had the best season he would ever have throughout his entire career, behind the wheel of what had become his familiar number 70 Chevrolet. His best start was 10th in Atlanta in the summer, and his best finish was 5th 3 times at Darlington in the spring, Bristol in the summer, and Dover in the fall. Overall, in 27 Cup Series starts, he scored 3 top 5s and 10 top 10s, finishing 10th in final Cup Series point standings. McDuffie also made one more one-off start in the Grand National East Series at Fayetteville in the late summer, starting 6th and finishing 9th. 1974 began pretty solid for McDuffie, but by the halfway point in the season, the DNFs started coming and didn't stop. Jimmy Bird started serving as his crew chief in 1974. His best start was 8th at North Wilkesboro in the spring, and his best finish was 7th twice at Richmond and Nashville in the spring. Overall, in 30 starts, he scored 7 top 10s, finishing 12th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. For the 1975 NASCAR Cup Series season, JD had sponsorship for all but one race throughout the season, for the first time ever. This season was not his best, but definitely not his worst, spending the majority of the season in the bottom half of the top 20 in points, missing 4 races early in the season due to injuries from an accident in the opening laps of the Daytona 500. His best start was 5th at Nashville in the spring, and his best finish was 5th at Richmond in the fall. Overall, in 26 Cup Series starts, he scored 1 top 5 and 6 top 10s, finishing 18th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Once again, McDuffie got off to another strong start to his season in 1976, but again, mechanical troubles, mainly engine issues, dropped him from 4th to 12th in point standings. His best start was 9th at Richmond in the spring, and his best finish was 5th in North Wilkesboro in the spring. Overall, 30 starts, McDuffie scored 1 top 5 and 8 top 10s, finishing 12th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. JD made a one-off start in Jeff Handy's number 33 Chevrolet at Rockingham in the fall, starting 36th and finishing 26th, following a lap 389 engine failure. Engine and mechanical issues continued to plague JD's race team the first half of the 1977 season, resulting in 9 DNFs in the first 16 races of the season. The NASCAR Cup Series was such a different place back then as far as the level of competition at the end of these races. McDuffie was able to settle into the top half of the teens in point standings and remain there all season, even through all his DNFs the first half of the season. His best start was 10th twice at both Richmond races. His best finish was 8th twice at Nashville and Talladega in the summer. Overall, in 30 starts, he scored 4 top 10s, finishing 12th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. In 1978, McDuffie's fortunes improved just a bit, with the addition of sponsor Bailey's Excavating coming on board as the team's primary sponsor for the majority of the season. Also winning his first and only NASCAR Cup Series pole position. McDuffie spent the 1978 season climbing through the bottom half of the teens into the top half of the teens in point standings throughout the season. His best start was first at Dover in the fall, and his best finish was 5th in Nashville in the summer. Overall, in 30 starts, he scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 6 top 10s, finishing 11th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Bailey's Excavating became the team's full-time sponsor in 1979. This was a pretty strong season for McDuffie. He even had what most would say his best overall race in Nashville in the spring, starting 9th, leading 111 laps on his way to finishing 5th, spending 12 weeks inside the top 10 and 28 weeks inside the top 15, and all 31 weeks inside the top 20 in points throughout the season. His best start was 7th at Bristol in the spring, and his best finish was 5th in Nashville in the spring. Overall, in 31 starts, he scored 1 top 5 and 7 top 10s, finishing 13th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. It was a brand new decade, the 1980s, and in 1980, J.D. McDuffie and his number 70 race team would either finish in the top 20 or DNF with engine issues of some sort. His best start was 7th at Richmond in the spring, and his best finish was 9th 3 times at Richmond and Atlanta in the spring, then Riverside in the summer. Overall, in 31 starts, he scored 3 top 10s, finishing 16th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. McDuffie also made one-off starts for a couple of teams during the season. The first was in the Daytona 500 after he DNQ'd in his number 70 Buick. Henley Gray put him in his number 19 Belden Asphalt Buick for the 500, starting 25th and finishing 27th. For the World 600, D.K. Ulrich put him in his number 40 Chevrolet, starting 23rd and finishing 30th. Another thing that happened with the dawning of a new decade, the sport continued to grow, and by 1981, Fortune 500 companies were beginning to enter the sport as sponsors of the top teams, meaning the spread between the teams with full top flight sponsorships and the teams running out of their backyard garages and on their own dime was getting even greater, making the chances of McDuffie running near the front lower and lower with every passing season. J.D. returned in 1981 with a self-owned number 70 Bailey's Excavating Pontiac full-time. His best start was 10th, and his best finish was 10th, both coming at Richmond in the spring. Overall, in 28 starts, he scored 1 top 10, finishing 17th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. The 1982 NASCAR Cup Series season saw J.D. continue to pull reasonable results in equipment that was increasingly not comparable to his competitors. His best start was 14th at Riverside in the fall. His best finish was 10th at Rockingham in the spring. Overall, in 30 starts, he scored 1 top 10, finishing 19th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. When he DNQ'd for the fall Martinsville race, Cecil Gordon let him drive his number 24 Buick. In the newly formed Busch Grand National Series, now Xfinity Series, McDuffie made 5 starts in his self-owned number 70 Pontiac. His best start was 12th, twice, at Darlington in the spring and Rockingham in the summer. His best finish was 15th at Charlotte in the fall. McDuffie began to not qualify for all the races throughout the season, starting in 1983. Nonetheless, even without solid sponsorship, J.D. would run the vast majority of the season. His best start was 14th at Martinsville in the fall, and his best finish was 11th at Richmond in the fall. Overall, in 25 starts, he scored 3 top 15s and 7 top 20s, finishing 26th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. McDuffie made another 5 Xfinity Series starts in '83, behind the wheel of a number 03 Chevrolet. His best start was 21st, and his best finish was 11th, both coming at Darlington in the fall, as well as making an ARCA Series start at Talladega in the spring. behind the wheel of a self-owned number 7 Pontiac, starting and finishing 34th after a burn-up clutch on lap 4. With costs continuing to rise, JD made the decision to only attempt races in which he had sponsorship for. Therefore, he only attempted 23 races in 1984, only qualifying 16 times in his number 70 Wilders Pontiac. His best start was 20th, and his best finish was 12th, both coming at Bristol in the summer. Overall, in 16 starts, he scored 1 top 15 and 3 top 20s, finishing 34th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. He made his final career Xfinity Series start at Charlotte in the spring, in a number 72 Thomas Brothers Country Ham Oldsmobile, starting 31st and finishing 8th. JD also made another ARCA Series start at Talladega in a self-owned number 72 Oldsmobile, starting 9th and finishing 21st, after a mechanical issue ended his race on lap 42. Rumble Furniture would become the team's new primary sponsor starting in 1985, meaning McDuffie went back to attempting every race again, though he only qualified for 23 events. His best start was 22nd in Norfolk Square in the spring, and his best finish was 15th twice at Talladega in the spring and Martinsville in the fall. Overall, he scored 2 top 15s and 4 top 20s, finishing 27th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. JD's son, Jeff McDuffie, would take over as the number 70 team's crew chief in 1986. JD would run the first 21 races as owner of his number 70 team, until Tom Winkle, a fellow team owner and a car dealer by trade, would take over as the team's car owner for the final races of the season. His best start was 20th, and his best finish was 14th, both coming at Riverside in the spring. Overall, he scored 1 top 15 and 7 top 20s, finishing 26th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. Again, he made a couple ARCA Series starts. His best start was 24th, and his best finish was 6th, both coming at Talladega in the summer. Winkle remained the owner of the number 70 Pontiac for the first 3 starts of the 1987 season, before JD would take back over as team owner. McDuffie's best start was 26th at Bristol in the spring, and his best finish was 16th at Richmond in the spring. Overall, in 17 starts, he scored 3 top 20s, finishing 30th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. From 1988 through 1991, McDuffie would make 22 NASCAR Cup Series starts and 8 ARCA Series starts throughout this time period, DNQing in the NASCAR Cup Series 55 times in that same time period. McDuffie's best start in the Cup Series was 29th at Daytona in the spring of 1989, and his best finish was 22nd at Watkins Glen in the summer of 1990. In ARCA, his best start was 26th at Pocono in the early summer of 1991, and his best finish was 10th at Atlanta in the fall of 1988. Sadly, on the 5th lap of the 1991 Budweiser at the Glen at Watkins Glen International Raceway, McDuffie was involved in an accident when he collided with Jimmy Means at 170 miles an hour after the left front spindle broke off his race car, and this caused him to lose brakes and not be able to steer the race car. McDuffie hit the Armco outside retaining wall and tire barrier with such force that his race car bounced back up into the air and did a 180-degree turn in the air, then came to rest upside down. Means got out of his race car to check on his fellow independent racer, J.D. McDuffie. After taking one quick glance into McDuffie's race car, Means began frantically calling for assistance. McDuffie was said to have died from a basilar skull fracture, like so many others would over the next decade, till NASCAR mandated the use of the Hans device in 2005. A sad end to a real underdog story. So, in 653 NASCAR Cup Series starts, McDuffie scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 12 top 5s, and 106 top 10s, with the best points finish of 9th in 1971. In 11 Xfinity Series starts, he scored 1 top 10. In 3 Grand National East Series starts, he scored 2 top 10s. And in 12 ARCA Series starts, he scored 2 top 10s. Thanks for watching, everyone, and take care.